This is the AMC one-year overview reading for the year of 2025. It's currently October 5th, 2024, 5:27 p.m. Eastern Time. American Entertainment Holdings is currently $4.40, that's USD. And the shuffle video for the AMC 2025 reading was created on August 5th, 2024 at 1:02 p.m. Eastern Time. All right, guys, as usual with these one-year overview readings, we're going to get into the overall theme throughout the year, the overall theme of the chart for AMC throughout the year of 2025, as well as the timing of any chart behavior or events that may help or hinder that overall trend. We're going to talk about where the timing of the peaks and troughs throughout the year, the prominent peaks and troughs on a one-year chart scale. We're going to give you the overall chart behavior by the quarter for quarter. It's information about the highest high, information about the lowest low, and we're going to give you one of the best trades that we see for the year. And we're also going to review the previous year's AMC reading to see how our accuracy has been thus far. All that stuff in the public version, the timing to the week of the highest highs, lowest lows, and the remaining trades, all that is something that you get in a monthly access subscription, which at the end of this video, I'll let you know how to get that. Before we get started, it's really important if you're new to the channel to understand that these cards going left to right across the screen, the pairs, there's like a cluster of 4 cards. Each cluster of 4 cards is a month out of the year, and the 2 cards paired next to each other in each cluster are what we call timeline cards. Each card represents about 2 weeks of time throughout the year, but what's important to understand is not each card's energy will necessarily line up perfectly with 2 weeks of time. So there may be some one-year readings in 2025 where you'll need to give the timing plus or minus 2 weeks of wiggle room. It happens occasionally, but the sequence of events, which is the most important thing to pay attention to, is what will remain accurate nonetheless of the plus or minus. Best way to handle that and trade this information is going to be through the Discord trade alerts that we have a service for that, as well as the live updated trading view chart that you get as part of Total Access subscription. So stay tuned for all that, guys. Let's get into it. Overall theme and behavior for AMC throughout the year of 2025, when you get the oppression card as the theme card for a big time frame reading, like a one-year reading, it very likely is indicating that we're bound within a major range. Occasionally, I've seen where the oppression card is talking about an important range that we break through, but rare. It's very rare. You're more likely to see like the victory card or something along those lines if it's a breakout. So oppression is very likely back and forth behavior or bound by one end of a range, back and forth between the top and bottom of a range or bound by one end. And it's crossed with periods of sideways rotation throughout the year in which we should revisit a support level that we've met before. Behavior on the high side, we have a big move. This will really stand out, probably one of the biggest moves of the year of 2025. It'll stand out on the 2025 chart, but it'll likely stand out on a multi-year scale as well. Huge move to the upside, pushing the upper end of a one-year chart scale higher. That doesn't mean necessarily pushing the high of the year higher, but when you're looking at a one-year chart, there'll be an important range that will push higher into the high. And my sense is that based on some things like the cross-reading congruencies and looking at the multi-year reading, this is probably one of those big moves that are characteristic of AMC that are like really, really quick and sudden. You want to sell into it almost immediately because it's like gone the next day kind of deal. It's very likely what this is. There may be more than one. We'll look at that in more detail as we progress. Behavior around the lowest low for the year, we have a crest near the lowest low that will sell off from down to and through support. And then below that price level that was acting as support, we break through it, right? And below it, we'll do a U-shaped reversal. We'll come back, break through it to the upside, and then reuse that price level as support. So it'll be like a U-shaped dip, and we'll come back to like maybe like halfway from where we fell after meeting the low. Be careful for a very sharp drop at the very beginning of the year through multiple support levels, a sharp drop that'll stand out at least on a one-year chart scale. It'll take us into a period of sideways rotation at the early part of the first quarter. And from that sideways rotation, which will be like a trough early in the first quarter, we should have a notable move to the upside, taking us into a peak mid-quarter, and then back into a trough around the cusp of February, March. So out of that trough, around the cusp of February, March, out of that trough, big move to the upside, taking us into key resistance on the multi-day scale, should be overbought crest that we then sell off from into another significant trough in the early part of Q2, where we likely see the April low twice. And then out of the later part of April and into the mid part of Q2, we should have a notable rally that kind of like turns over and becomes mixed behavior with a peak at the beginning, most likely like the early part of June. So we go from a trough rallying into a peak in early June. That peak will be marked by an important technical price level on a multi-year scale. And from that resistance at the peak, it'll be important resistance that will decline then from with consecutively lower specs up on the way down. Decline will be really sharp right on the cusp of June, July. Most likely a trough in early Q3. Pretty sidewaysy back and forth price change going on, attempting to establish support and some consolidation there in July. And probably an important trough established there in either July or in early August. But we have this big move creating a peak somewhere around mid-August. And then we decline from that peak and then return to that peak, and it'll be like at a resistance level that we first broke out through temporarily, then we come back down, and then we meet that resistance and we kind of like bump up against it and have failed attempts to break through it as we exit Q3. In early Q4, really mixed, a lot of price change between the October high and the October low. We'll most likely see the October low more than once, either that or the October low is revisited in November possibly, or we saw it in September, hard to say, but there's going to be like 2 of those. And kind of like decline into mid Q4, and then out of the decline mid Q4, there's a big move to the upside, taking us to a prominent peak around the cusp of November, December. Matter of fact, I'm seeing a breakout, guys. There's a pretty significant breakout here. It might be a more sustained breakout than I originally suspected, because it looks like in Q3, we break out through key resistance on a 1-year chart scale minimum, right? We break through the upper end of that range, and we push the upper end of that range higher, it looks like, in Q4. Now, I'm going to get into one of the best trades that I see for the year 2025, but before I do that, let's take a look at 2024, see how our accuracy has been. The 2024 1-year reading was created on June 27, 2023 at 7:04 p.m. Eastern Time, still being used today, guys, so let's check it out and see how it's going. We did predict that there was going to be a significant spike taking place in 2024, and you can see right there on the chart taking place in May, this huge spike. That was like almost like a one-day window to cash out at a max game, but like really the move was like 1 or 2 days tops. And that's the kind of thing that you see as a full card opportunity or a full card trade, something very unlikely and improbable. As far as the cross-reading congruencies for the 2024 reading, right, we've got the appearance of the fortune card in an important location as far as like prominence of things, important things on a chart taking place in July. We have the appearance of the fortune card. We have the appearance of the Prince of Wands at the very end of the year, which is the 2025 card. Interesting. We got the victory card. Yeah, check that out, guys. So off of the low in March, so it ended up really being April. Remember what I said, you need to give it plus or minus 2 weeks of wiggle room, follow the sequence of events. And then there's a sharp drop into a lowest low for the year taking place in April. We have a lowest low and a possibility of a highest high kind of like mushed together here. And we have like a lowest low and then a highest high like almost on top of each other, which is why these two are together. Interesting. I just learned something. When I did this reading in 2023, I'd only been doing doing 1-year readings probably for like a few years. I've gotten, and not that many, considering I did like 50 in 2024 thus far. I've gotten substantially better, but in either case, I'm going to know how to read that next time when we got them stacked like that. That makes a lot of sense. Either way, there was that big move, that fast sudden move higher to May high, this lust card kind of energy. And if you take out this spike, you're going to find that the highs throughout the year are pretty solid. And that'll happen with an SO Meta reading a lot because, like, aside from this one spike where you could, like, make money real quick, this is giving you information about highs and lows throughout the year. So it's relevant throughout the year. This is why we trade chart behavior and not price levels with SO Meta analysis. But we had a lowest low early in the year. We had this Ace of Swords price level in early February that we fell from, returned to, fell from, returned to. There's this resistance level that we failed to break through many times before in later part of February. Pretty significant decline into a trough. I don't have it as the lowest low. I have it as a prominent trough there in March. But then we do have a lowest low marker for April and a lowest low marker for May, and we nailed both of those. We just kind of like didn't expect this highest high to be as high there. With that said, we see the highs and the lows. The highest highs and the lowest lows are within close time proximity to each other because of all this sidewaysy behavior. In the 2024 reading, the oppression card is the sneak preview card. It's a cross-reading congruency telling us the importance of this range. As a matter of fact, I'm going to see if that's the bottom end of the range when I get into the total access subscription version. Let's take a look at any of these trades. So we had this opportunity at the April low to open up a long position. I had an opportunity to open up a long position at the April lowest low, and I would have probably advised to sell it without looking at a chart. Advised to sell it probably here in July. So let's see, April low, May low, and then in July at the July high. That would have been a pretty solid trade, even if I decided not to sell here. But most likely when this spike happens, seeing that, I very likely was advising people to sell because a novice trader would be like, oh, there's more to go. What if it goes higher? Like a novice trader would do that. A smart trader with experience and discipline, they ever see a spike like that and they've got that gain, they're cashing out immediately. Almost certainly. But that would have been a pretty solid trade. As well as here at the February high, if you opened up, or in early February, if you opened up a long position in the midst of the decline off of that February high, you would have been able to close the long position when revisiting that February high later on in February. If you missed that opportunity, you would have had one more opportunity, pretty close, in early March. That's that Princess of Swords, that's that Ace of Swords kind of declining, returning to. So those were pretty solid trades. Yeah, well, there was a breakout of the March low, but it was on a much bigger scale than I expected. The decline off of the August high should offer opportunity to open up a long position. So August high, we're going to go with this because this is right on the cusp. August high, right? There was a pretty sharp decline that offered opportunity to open up a long position. We almost returned to it. And then there's price swinging in early September, taking us into another lowest low here in October, or close. It's not quite a lowest low, but it's pretty substantial. And then we likely see highs here towards the end of the year. This is overall not my best reading, but it's not awful. The trades were pretty solid. I missed some of the highs, I missed some of the lows, but it was, early on in my development of SO Meta 1-year readings. Now we're substantially more on point, really. Either case, the trades were still really solid. Anybody who was following the trades for this, even without my guidance, would have done substantially well, utilizing the trade guidance of this reading. All right, guys, so let's give you one of the best trades that I see for 2025. All right, yeah, right here in Q1, guys, we're going to use this Princess of Swords trade opportunity. These are really, really reliable. So pay attention. You're going to learn a bit about how to trade this card. So what it's representing is a resistance level. In the case of this 1 year reading, it's a resistance level on a scale of a multi-year chart. It would stand out on a 1 year chart as an important price level. When we meet that resistance, we're going to decline from it into a lowest low for the year, at least thus far. In like mid Q1, we go from this peak to this trough. There's a possibility we go from a lowest low to a highest high thus far and back to a lowest low, or it's just a high thus far into a lowest low thus far. Either way, that resistance level, if you can identify it, which if you follow along on our live streams or you follow along with the Discord alerts and the live updated charts, then you will identify it easily. What you want to do is in the midst of the decline out of that resistance, you want to open up a partial long. We go lower, add to the long. We go lower, add to the long. We go lower, add to the long. Eventually we turn around and there's this huge Magus move, which is probably combined here with the Strength card move, which is an important card in relation to the Oppression card. The Magus card is saying at that low, the decline into the low, you're opening up that long position, and then the exit plan is to close all of that long as much as you've opened in that midst of that decline. You're closing that long position when out of that decline, eventually there's a big move from the bottom of a range all the way to the top of a range. In the case of this 1 year reading, it looks like that range is going to be the upper end of the range, so probably back to the same resistance that we saw here. To be super, super prudent, you might not even wait for that resistance. When you've got a solid profit and we're nearing that kind of price range, exit for the profit, take the gain, and roll, guys. Come back to the channel, find another trade. And don't forget about that rule of karma, my friends. It's the whole purpose of the channel. I will love you dearly for being one of those fortunate few with the integrity to follow through on that rule of karma. Blessings to all of you. And that's AMC for 2025. Much love and appreciation goes out to you. Let me know what you think by hitting that like button. Most importantly, follow that rule of karma. Blessings to all my angel investors. I will see you guys on the next one. Stay tuned for the total access version where we get into the timing of the highest highs and give you the remaining best trades that we see.